Hello, Yu-Gi-Oh players, and welcome to Yu-Gi-Oh! Business Casual. I'm your host, the RJB0. So this is probably going to be the last of my extensive amount of OCG updating for the day, unless, Konami announces or leaks some broken new thing that I feel the absolute necessity to talk to you guys about. But during this video, I'm just going to run down the Xyz monsters that we've gotten leaked and confirmed for Legacy of the Valiant. There are some pretty awesome ones, and I'm just going to run down them. I'm not going to do a whole lot of review. I will just kind of talk about them a little bit. First, let's talk about Gorgonic Guardian. This is a little bit of a weird one, since it's a rank 3 rock monster that requires rock-type monsters. And it's 1612, and once per turn during either player's turn, you can detach a material and make a monster on the field have 0 attack and no effect. And then, once per turn, you can also target one monster with 0 attack on the field and destroy that target. So it's a little bit like Paladynamo, except it can get over things like, it can just destroy things like Dracosac on the spot. If your opponent has multiple 0 attack point monsters on the board, you can get rid of them both. But the level 3 rock-type monsters requirement is a little bit weird, and I think this may be indicative of Konami's making at least some form of level 3 rock-type archetype. So we should keep our eyes out for that. Next, we have a couple of Xyz monsters. We've got C92, Hard Earth Chaos Dragon, which I'm not particularly impressed by. You guys can look it up yourself. I think that Hard Earth Dragon itself is better than this card. It's just not worth the rank up magic to make it. Then you have something that definitely is worth the rank up magic to make it. Number 6 C69 Heraldry Chaos Crest, whose ability is first it requires 4 level 5 monsters, but that's because you're going to rank it up anyway. But when your opponent's monster declares an attack, destroy all cards your opponent controls. Yeah. That's its effect. That's how crazy this game has gotten. Anyway, and if it has a number 69 attached to it as an Xyz material, once per turn you can detach a material to target an opponent's monster, and this card basically becomes that monster, except instead of becoming the same attack as that monster, it gains that monster's original attack. So if your opponent has something like a Constellar Omega, then this card can increase itself by that Constellar Omega's attack. It can basically honest itself, and then also make itself immune to spell and trap cards for the turn. There are just a number of really crazy ways that you can use this card. It's an extremely powerful card at 4,000 attack points, and the ability to just destroy all cards your opponent controls if your opponent's monster declares an attack. I mean, they're not going to declare an attack, but considering the fact that it can do that, it's just pretty amazing. Next, I have to scroll down a ways. Once again, my source for all this news is Yu-Gi-Oh! Edition Singapore. You should hit them up on Facebook and give them that like button. They always have the OCG leaks as soon as they come out. They have their own translators and everything. So next, more stuff we have. Bujinte Tsukiyomi, which is, of course, another Bujin rank 4 monster. It's a Light Beast Warrior, 1800, 2300. So this is kind of going with Arasada, who is like the opposite of the others, who have high attack and decent defense. This, of course, has high defense and okay attack. And it requires 2 level 4 light-type monsters, which is something pretty cool in and of itself, that it only requires light-type monsters. And it's once per turn you can detach 1 Xyz material, send your entire hand to the graveyard, then draw 2 cards. Which, for some decks, like if you run out of cards, this could be a really good late-game card. When this card leaves the field, due to an opponent's card effect, if it had Xyz material attached to it, you can special summon as many level 4 Beast Warrior type monsters, Bujin monsters, as the number of Xyz materials you had in your graveyard. You can only, where you had attached to it, you can only control 1. It's an okay card. It isn't an amazing card. Of course, if you do run out of resources, it's going to be a nice thing to have around. But the fact that it has to be destroyed by your opponent's card effect is a little bit obnoxious. In order to get that second effect. Like, if it could be destroyed by your card effect, that would be pretty cool, but it can't. So, it's okay. It isn't amazing, but I'm going to move on to Rekha Verzubuto. Wow, that's a difficult card not to butcher. I don't know if you guys have seen the picture yet. You probably have. It basically looks like a light version of Steel Swarm Roach, and it's also like a spectacular version of Steel Swarm Roach. It requires 2 level 4 monsters, so it's generic. It's 1900, light, fiend. If the combined number of cards in your hand and side of the field is less than the combined number of cards in your opponent's hand and side of the field, you can detach 1 Xyz material from this card, destroy all cards on the field except this one. But any damage inflicted to your opponent this turn becomes 0. This effect can only be activated during your main phase or your opponent's battle phase. So it becomes like a Black Rose Dragon that you can use during your opponent's battle phase. So if they don't like Dark Hole it or something, you can blast your opponent's board during the battle phase. And it does have Verse in its name, which does possibly make it an Evil Swarm monster. We'll have to see what Konami does with this card. But it is a pretty spectacular card. We have another overlay Xyz monster, but by which I mean that it can overlay on top of other Xyz monsters for free. It's Downed Magician. It's a Dark Spellcaster, rank 4, 2100, 200, requires 2 level 4 Spellcaster monsters, or you can Xyz summon it by putting it on top of a rank 3 or lower Xyz monster you control and using it as Xyz material. You cannot Xyz summon it using this method during your main phase 2, but this card gains 200 attack for each Xyz material attached to it. So if you have, if you go, I don't know, Tour Guide into Leviathan Dragon, this card will gain 600 attack, so it becomes 2700. So that's pretty amazing. And if this card attacks a defense position monster, inflict piercing damage. When this card battles, if this card inflicts damage, detach 1 Xyz material from this card. So it's pretty darn good considering the fact that you can overlay it on top of Slacker Magician and get this effect. So it gives a lot of power to those decks that can make those low-level Xyz monsters, and that's pretty cool in my opinion. The next thing we have are 3 more Xyz monsters. The first one is another indicator that Konami is really going to give some serious support to the Shinra archetype, because we have a rank 8 Xyz monster for it. That's 2300, 3200. It's Shinra's Guardian Spirit, or Aruse. And its effect is once per turn you can declare 1 card name, reveal the top card of your deck, and if it is the declared card, add it to your hand. Otherwise, send that card to the graveyard. If a card is sent from your deck to the graveyard by a card effect, you can detach 1 Xyz material from this card, then target 1 card on the field, place that card on the top or bottom of the deck. You can only use this effect of Shinra's Guardian Spirit Aruse once per turn. So this card is actually pretty amazing in my opinion. First of all, because it allows you to basically draw a card from your deck if you know what it is. So, like, if you stack something for Plague Spreader, you can just draw it back to your hand. With Aruse, if you, say, use Lavalval Chain or something like that. But even if you don't, if you mill a Shinra monster by this card, you then get to mill another card. Let's see. Yes, if you mill a Shinra monster to your graveyard with this card, then you get to draw a card, and then its effect activates, which is when a card is sent from your deck to the graveyard by a card effect, you can detach an Xyz material and then target a card on the field and place it on the top or the bottom of the deck. So you can spin an opponent's card when this card uses its effect and you don't get the name right, and if it's a Shinra monster, you also get an extra draw. So this is hinting at some serious Shinra support that we're going to be getting out of Legacy of the Valiant. Then we have Fairy Knight Ignal, which requires 3 level 6 monsters, so it's already not spectacular. And you can detach 2 Xyz material from this card, return all cards on the field to the hand except this card. There are a lot better cards that can do basically the same thing. The only thing that it has that's better than them is the fact that your opponent can't activate cards in response to it. But most of the time there are better things you can do with 3 level 6 monsters, and it's a pretty unlikely thing that you're going to be able to use that. And then we get Ghost Trick Dullahan, which is the last card I'm going to be quickly running over today, which is a rank 1 monster, requires 2 level 1 monsters, it gains 200 attack for each Ghost Trick card you control, which isn't that great. Once per turn, you can detach 1 Xyz material from this card, then target 1 monster on the field, have that monster's attack until the end phase. That's a little better, and this effect can also be activated during your opponent's turn. And if this card is sent to the graveyard, you can select 1 Ghost Trick monster in your graveyard or card in the graveyard, except this card, and add it to your hand. It's okay. It's probably not what Ghost Tricks really need to succeed in the meta, but we shall see what they can do with it. Meanwhile, thank you guys for watching Yu-Gi-Oh! And Business Casual. I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, hit that thumbs up button. If you didn't, let me know why. And then subscribe for more discussion, news, decks, and shenanigans. And I'm your host, the RJB0, and I got a jet. See ya, guys.